friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video I am going to be taking you guys through a process video putting together a project using the Feature Craft new releases for July. So this spread was entirely inspired by the add-on stamp set that came out this month. So it is this one right here with the phone oh, I got my pictures back here. The phone stamp set. So what I want to do for today's spread, I have it kind of sort of written out here on my paper from when I did some project planning. My idea is to have 2 pages, and I was originally thinking of doing it outside of the pocket and making it interactive. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to like straight up put these on a paper or on a page and call that good. So I'm going to do 2 6x8 papers, each with 4 phones on it. And inside of the phones, I printed out some of my absolute favorite coronavirus memes. So over the last couple of months, well, really since the beginning of the whole coronavirus pandemic here in the US, I have been keeping a file of some of my favorite memes that I have seen circulating around the web. So this seemed like the perfect opportunity to grab a whole bunch of those and then use them in a spread to document some of the times and, you know, some of the, I guess, like darker humor behind memes, because that's kind of what a lot of them are. So I printed out 8 of them, and these are sized at 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide by, I believe, 2¼ inches tall or 2½ inches tall, something like that. Whatever it is, it fits inside of the screen here. Then I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get a bunch of these phones stamped out. We'll cut out the photos here to add into the screens, and then I'll see if I can use some of the other stamps in here to add embellishments and whatnot on this page. So it should be fun. Looking forward to it. I always love when I can get my stamps out and get inky. And yeah, so what we're going to do is I'm going to just put you guys on fast forward and get to work making this spread. I will talk you through the process as I am going, and we'll slow down once we get everything complete. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here to get this spread started is to go ahead and stamp out a bunch of these phone stamps. However, my stamp block, if you can see here, is actually not quite big enough to fit this whole stamp on it. So what I'm going to end up doing is putting as much of the stamp onto the block as possible, and the only thing that isn't on there is the very bottom line of the phone. So I'm going to use a second stamp block just to press down on that bottom line in order to get that impression as well. For stamping tools, since the majority of this spread is going to be stamps, I am using my scrapbook.com premium dye ink in the black color. This is my favorite ink, my favorite black ink that I own, that I've ever tried. There are a few out there that I haven't tried yet, but I love this one because it stamps super bold and filled in and just very crisp, and I really, really like it. So you can see it there. I'm also using my Sizzix Stamper's Secret Weapon, which is like a foam type board that helps you get a really good impression with your stamp. So here you can see where I'm going to use that second block just to push down on the bottom line, and then I can pull it all up, and everything has been pressed down. So these are looking good. Those I wanted to stamp off a couple just to make sure that the stamp was primed. Then I went ahead and stamped another 8 more on an 8.5 by 11 piece of white cardstock. So the next thing I'm going to do is get them all trimmed out. There we go, including the ones that I used as kind of a priming sort of thing. They actually looked really nice, so I just went ahead and cut those ones out too. So now I've got 10 of those phones stamped out. Then I grabbed my photos and trim them down to where they would fit inside of the phones. So here is the caveat. I did a spread, it looks like this. I just put the photos on there, printed out some, or stamped out some sentiments to add onto the photos, and then added them all onto a piece of teal cardstock. And then I was going to call that done, but honestly, I really didn't like it. So I decided to scrap it, to say, you know, to just throw it to the side, scrap it, and start over. And what I decided to do was to try doing the stamping again, but to make my whole background these stamped phones, to make it almost like a pattern paper where I could add photos into the different squares and sentiments and stuff like that. So I inked up my stamp, I got another 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and I added my phone onto it in an angle. So you're going to see me build this pattern. I left quite a bit of this footage in just so you could see how I went about stamping this background here. And then I do cut, you know, I will eventually cut a portion of it out because it would take forever for you guys to watch me do all of this. I think my footage for this entire process for like both the first spread and the second spread was something like 2 hours. Like this took me so long because I kind of didn't know really what it is that I wanted to do. So I had started stamping on the paper just on my desk. I wasn't getting as great of impressions, brought back out the Stamper's Secret Weapon, and just continued on with stamping these phones on here. So what I'm going to end up doing is actually stamping out 2 full pages of these phones so that I can cut them down into 2 6x8 pages in order to make it a full page spread. The cool thing about that is since I stamped the entire page, I'm going to have a cut off piece that I can use to make into a traveler's notebook paper. You will see me do that here later. So it's really cool to have that. I'm not sure where I'm going to use that. Maybe I'll use it on a Sunday sketch one of these days. But it's really cool to be able to have that. So here is the first page done. So now I am going to pull out another page. At first I didn't realize I was going to need another page and then realized, like, wait a second, this is going to be a full page spread, and that page is only 11 inches wide, or 11, what, 8.5 by 11, yeah, 11 inches. So I go to cut it right here, which I will. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one to 6 inches wide, and then I'm going to put this to the side. I debate going ahead and cutting this portion, but then decide, you know what, wait a second, let me make the second page first. Then I'm going to use that cutoff piece as a template to figure out where or at what angle to put these phones, because I want those pages to line up. So this part was kind of tricky at first to figure out how to go about doing this. And then this idea came to me. So I layered it there on the end, put one of my trimmed out phones right over top of like where that phone would go, removed the piece in between, and then just used a pencil to trace around the phone. So I'm going to do that for all of the phones that interact with that edge of the paper. Once I have that done, we're going to continue on and stamp out this whole page as well, and doing it the exact same way as we did before. So I'm really glad I thought about this. I think I would have been so mad if I stamped out a whole second page and then didn't realize that I needed to figure out exactly where those phones would need to go to line up with it. So now I've got them all on there with the pencil, so I'm just going to ink up the stamp again and do my very best to put them in the right places just by eye. I'm going to stick my head in here a whole bunch because it did take a little bit of finesse in order to get them into the right spots, but it does work out, which is so exciting. I love it. I just love the way that this page comes together. So I am going to work on that. And then once I have this page all trimmed out, I again will trim it down into 6-inch wide piece. And then I will take both pieces and trim them at 8 inches tall. So these are going to go inside of a pocket. Yes. Once I have that done, I am going to pull over some more ink swatches or ink pads. For the rest of the spread, I'm going to be using Tim Holtz Distress Inks. I just have the mini cubes and they are absolutely perfect. I love them. I am going to pull out a couple of different colors, a red, a yellow, and then a teal, because I did really like the look of the teal with the other colors of this page. I just felt like the cardstock portion was just too much. It was too much. I just really struggled figuring out how to get that to work. So here's where you see me taking those cutoff pieces and turning them into traveler's notebook papers. See how cool do those look? I just love them. Like, I think that would make such a cool spread for like a text conversation or something like that. And now you can see that those pages line up really nicely. So woohoo, success. So next what I'm going to do is pull out all of these like phones that I had done, and I'm just going to take the photos off of them. I'm not going to reprint my photos. I will, recycle the phones that I had previously stamped out and the background papers, and it just didn't work out, sadly, but that is okay. So I was still able to reuse the photos. So there they all are on there. And next I am going to pull out the stamp set that what was it called? Keep in Touch. The Keep in Touch stamp set, pull out a bunch of sentiments that I like that I can fill in the rest of those phones with. And then this is where I'm going to grab my Tim Holtz Distress inks. I debated on a couple of different colors, ultimately just landed on the yellow, the red, and the teal. There are a few sentiments on the pictures that I had done previously, and I did tape them onto the photos. I tried to peel them off just to see what would happen, and it left a bunch of sticky residue, so I decided to just leave those as they were and then fill in the rest from there. So some of the icons I'm going to use to create kind of like a pattern on the phone screen itself. Some of the sentiments I'm going to put on there, like there's one that says I'm laughing out loud, and one that says screenshot worthy, which is ultimately what I titled this page as, even though technically there's not really a title on it, but that is what I'm calling this page, is screenshot worthy, because all of these were. And that is really the stamp set that inspired this whole thing anyway. What was worthy of me taking a screenshot of it, which in this case is what made me laugh enough to take a screenshot of it to show my husband later. So that's what all these are. So for some of the screens, you can see where they interact with the side, like the one I'm working on right now. When I am working on that one, I am making sure to stamp some of the things kind of going off the page so that it looks as though it continued on and I cut it off at that point. For the middle there, I just make sure to keep those pieces as close to centered together as possible. That way when they are separated, they still line up nicely. And then I believe once I do this one, I'm going to skip over me putting together the bottom couple of screens, since you guys have already seen how I go about doing that. And then that is going to finish up the spread. So we'll go ahead and slow back down. All right, you guys, that finishes this spread for today. This turned out really cool. I'm glad I pivoted and did something different. So I will likely take out the footage of the first project I did just to save on time, but I did complete an entire project before deciding to just scrap it and start over. I'm glad I did, because I like the way that this turned out a lot better than the way that the previous one turned out. And as a bonus, because I stamped out 2 full pages of these the phone icons, I actually have 2 additional pieces of paper here. These were the cutoff ends that are now sized as a traveler's notebook paper. So I can totally use these in a traveler's notebook later. I will just add them to my pattern paper stash for traveler's notebooks. So that was an awesome bonus that came out of this. So yeah, I hope that this, gave you guys some fun ideas on how to use some of these stamp sets and some fun things to document using the phone theme. For me, it was the memes, but there's so much that you can do. You can do text conversations or, like quotes that you really like, or there's just tons and tons of things that you could do with that phone. That is so fun. Yeah, so if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up down below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can see all of my future crafty videos. I will be back again with more videos coming your way, and until then, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye now.